My name is Max. Currently, I'm 40 years old and have been working for the company I joined right out of high school for over 20 years. I never thought I'd stick with one company for so long. Originally, I was enrolled in a university, but due to certain circumstances, I had to drop out and started working at this company as a high school graduate. So, the idea of staying with the company that I joined on such short notice for 20 years was far from my mind. Even the supervisor who interviewed me for the job probably didn't expect me to last this long. Yet, here I am, over 20 years later, recognized by my superiors and colleagues alike. Still, during gatherings like drinking parties, my boss, James, and others occasionally tease me about those early days. Back then, we never knew when you might quit. Even HR was always on edge about it. I did wonder whether I should quit at times, but I didn't know HR was treating me like that. Well, you barely did the minimum work when you first started. Who could have predicted you'd stay for over 20 years? Honestly, I never thought I'd last this long either. But as I got used to the company, filled with good people, I saw no reason to leave. True, many people leave their jobs due to poor relationships, but our company has a lot of genuinely nice people, so we don't see much of that here. Yes, especially since you are such a great person. As long as you're with the company, I won't be leaving either. It's surprising how you, who used to act so selfishly and hardly listen to anyone, has come to hold me in such high regard. I wouldn't have believed it back then. Comparing myself now to when I first joined, I've changed so much. It's understandable if you thought differently of me. The transformation I've undergone is definitely thanks to this company. This company, which I joined somewhat randomly, never looked down on me for being a high school graduate and always assessed me based on my abilities. Dropping out of university left me with a lot of insecurities, but being valued by others made me immerse myself in my work more and more. As a result, I began to produce solid results, comparable to, if not exceeding, those of my peers who graduated from university. This company taught me that society values skills over educational background. Now, I work with colleagues who, unlike me, are graduates from prestigious universities, but none of them ever bring up educational backgrounds. It's not that they're being considerate, but rather, they genuinely don't think it matters. Since meeting them, there's hardly been any talk about educational backgrounds. While enjoying my work in such an environment, my supervisor called me in. "What's this urgent matter about? It's rare for you to summon me like this. I know you've been working harder than anyone recently and must be busy, so I'm sorry for calling you in so suddenly." It's fine, but being called in so suddenly made me wonder if I'd made some grave mistake and started panicking. "No, Max, I didn't call you here because you made a mistake. On the contrary, because you've been working so hard, there's something I want to entrust you with." "What is it that you want to entrust me with?" "If it's something within my capabilities, I'm willing to take on anything. Actually, our company is planning to expand into the overseas market, and we're thinking of setting up an overseas branch. For that, I'd like you to take on the role of branch manager." "Branch manager?" "Yes, I want you to be the branch manager." Such an unexpected proposition left me struggling to grasp the situation. Indeed, I had heard talks of venturing into the international market before. However, this was the first I heard of establishing a branch, and the idea of being chosen as its manager was beyond my expectations, leaving me unsure how to respond. Of course, being selected as a branch manager meant a great deal of trust was placed in me, but facing such a sudden and significant proposal left me at a loss. While pleased with the trust, the responsibility of a branch manager, especially overseas, felt overwhelming. Given my uncertainties about managing effectively, even domestically, steering an overseas branch seemed incredibly daunting. With such anxiety, I decided to share my honest thoughts. "I'm truly honored to be considered, but given my current state, I'm not even confident in my work, let alone taking on such a role as a branch manager." "Are you saying my judgment is mistaken?" "Not at all, but receiving such news so abruptly has left me feeling quite anxious." "There's no need for concern. I've fully discussed your performance and capabilities with the executives, and we've all agreed that you're the best fit for the role of the overseas branch manager. So, you've discussed this thoroughly and chosen me as the candidate for branch manager. I thought you were still at the recommendation stage. It would be cruel to get you prepared only to tell you later that you weren't chosen. If you're ready to agree, we're prepared to move forward with establishing the branch. This means the decision rests entirely with me. However, I'm still puzzled why I was chosen. While I'm delighted, I can't quite grasp why. Compared to other employees, your level of German is high, and you've shown great leadership in projects. That's why we believe you're the best choice to oversee our overseas branch. Knowing all that, you chose me. Our company's first venture into overseas branches. So naturally, we can afford to fail. The upper management, including the executives, has been discussing this very cautiously. I hadn't expected that a meeting involving the executives would decide to entrust me with such a responsibility. I hadn't heard any rumors about it. Being chosen in such circumstances truly feels like an honor. Since joining this company, I've gradually been recognized for my abilities, and that recognition has been joyful and motivating. However, I hadn't anticipated that my efforts would culminate in this way. Hence, being entrusted with such a significant role has me incredibly nervous. This nervousness stems from both the anxiety of whether I can do it and the pressure of living up to the expectations placed on me. Although I do have confidence in my abilities, the weight of these expectations makes me anxious. However, stepping down from this significant role now would feel like all my efforts up to this point were in vain. So I decided to take on the role of branch manager to meet those expectations. Of course, I've never been a branch manager before, and there's a possibility of failure, but I've resolved to give it my all. If you're putting that much faith in me, then I'd be honored to take on the role. Really. The upper management will be delighted to hear about your decision. I'm glad if they would be pleased. But to be honest, I still have many anxieties and am quite nervous. I didn't mention this earlier because I wanted you to make a firm decision, but I'll be helping out at the overseas branch until it gets on track, so you can rely on me if you need anything. That's a relief to hear. My anxieties have been alleviated, and now I'm excited to see how far we can take the branch. I thought you might say that, which is what I recommended you to the upper management. They agreed immediately after hearing my proposal. It's heartening to know you have such high expectations of me. I'll do my utmost to meet them, striving to work independently and not rely on you too much. While it's a bit lonely not to be relied upon by a subordinate like you, it's gratifying to see you've grown so much. With that, James and I, along with a few employees, were set to transfer to the overseas branch. I never imagined that at 40, I would be moving to an overseas branch. Heading overseas as a branch manager was beyond my wildest dreams, signaling an exciting life ahead. This marks the beginning of our overseas branch life, venturing into new developments locally. I focused on German during my university entrance exams and frequently traveled to Germany, so my German is quite functional. This proficiency likely contributed to my selection as branch manager, though I admit, my experience with negotiations in German is limited, which makes me quite nervous. James, who joined me, has previous experience working in an overseas branch for another company. Though it's been over a decade since then, he probably shares a similar feeling of anticipation and challenge. Upon arrival at the overseas branch, I was faced with a more challenging environment than I had imagined, and the branch was significantly larger than expected, reflecting the high expectations from the company. Renting an office this size for our first overseas branch must mean the executives have high hopes for us. Yes, that seems to be the case. They expect us to expand our client base, increase profits, and fill the office with capable employees. I'm eager to exceed those expectations, making the executives back home take notice. You seemed so anxious at first, but now you're quite motivated. Having been given this opportunity and the trust of both you and the executives, I feel driven to produce results. Just be careful not to overdo it. Being new to overseas work, you'll likely face various challenges at first. When I was at the headquarters, I have grown accustomed to my tasks, and the excitement had faded. Now, it feels like when I first joined a company, and it's exhilarating. Perhaps you're more suited to overseas work than in the US. I'll do my best to prove you right and achieve great results. Thus began our life at the overseas branch. Contrary to what James had warned, things progressed smoothly. We secured new clients and ensured ample profits. Soon, we faced a shortage of staff and began advertising for American residents in the area. It led several applications due to our competitive salary offerings. I hadn't expected such a response in a place seemingly devoid of American people. Despite that, we were truly short-handed and incredibly busy, needing all the help we could get, so I'm grateful to those who applied. I set about creating a comprehensive manual to ensure even those new to the area could work effectively. Reflecting on my journey from a disheartened high school graduate to a branch manager responsible for employee development was a source of pride. Upon reviewing the manual with James, he expressed immense pride in my growth. To think you've come this far from being barely useful at the beginning to now creating such a manual truly shows how much you've grown. I'm genuinely moved. I'm glad to hear you say that. Even after you return to the US, I'm determined to continue expanding the overseas branch with various strategies. With the way things are going, this branch might rival the headquarters in the US. Sales are increasing rapidly, the business is growing, and we've managed to secure more staff than expected with a well-organized manual in place. Yeah, before I came here, there were some suspicions hinted at during the main office meeting, but so far, there haven't been any issues, so I think we're on track for smooth sailing. Of course, I can't let my guard down, so I plan to proceed with caution. Yeah, no matter how well things are going, complacency is a no-go. A few years down the line, I want to be told I did a good job handing over the role of branch manager of the overseas branch to you. So right now, I'm all in on focusing on the task at hand. Yes, I plan to keep working hard without becoming complacent, making the most of what I learned from you. From there, I decided to work even harder than I did back in the US. For James, who has come to help us from the US, I can't afford to let this overseas expansion fail. Back when I was in the US and was given the role of branch manager of an overseas branch, I had no confidence and thought I might fail, but now it's different. I believe I can do it and am determined to succeed. Of course, there are language barriers and it's not going to be easy, but all the employees who have joined us recently are good-natured and have thoroughly read the manual, becoming valuable assets right away. If we continue to grow like this, I think we might end up with talents superior to those we have back home. By the way, I also received a manual for training employees in the US, but it wasn't updated at all, so I decided to start from scratch and redo it. Thanks to that, even the newest employees are working as if they are on par with the rest. While working on employee training and thinking about business expansion plans, James called me for an important discussion. It's been a long time since I felt this way, the last time being when I was offered the role of branch manager. There was talk of an important discussion. What's it all about? You don't mean to say our overseas branch is being poorly evaluated, do you? I've been worried since there hasn't been any communication from the headquarters. With how well we're doing, there's no way we're being poorly evaluated. If anything, we're being told to proceed with caution because we're doing too well. I see. That's reassuring. Then, if it's not about the overseas branch's evaluation, what's this important discussion you want to have? Actually, after reporting how well this overseas branch is doing, the headquarters asked me to help out back in the US, so I'll be returning sooner than planned. Oh, that was unexpected. Your presence has been a big part of why we've been successful, so I'm a bit worried, but it can't be helped. If it were the old you, I think you would have tried to keep me here by any means, but from what I can see, you seem pretty confident. To be honest, I'm not that confident, but I can't rely on you forever, so I'll make sure to prove myself here and show results. I don't know what you're misunderstanding, but I already recognize your abilities, so don't worry. However, I do hope you'll make this overseas branch a success. I'm truly glad to hear you say that. I'll make sure to grow it, so please wait for me back home. With that, James was set to return to the US. I hadn't expected him to leave so suddenly, and I couldn't hide my dismay. Since James had been handling quite a bit, it's necessary to transition those responsibilities to other employees. What happens next is uncertain, but we need to create a system that functions even without James. Otherwise, this overseas branch, which has been growing smoothly until now, might start to decline. Now that the company has recognized my capabilities and entrusted me with the role of an overseas branch manager, I can't let them down. From what James says, it seems that people at the headquarters are even more excited about the results of this overseas branch so far. Apparently, if this branch continues on its successful path, they're considering expanding into other countries as well. Leading the charge, I hope to create a success story for our overseas branches and make our company more capable of expanding abroad. As I work with these thoughts in mind, another American person living locally, Mia, comes in for an interview. To be honest, I was hesitant about conducting the interview because her appearance was too flashy at first glance. But since we're still short on staff, I decided to at least do the interview. Thank you for coming to the interview today. First off, why did you want to join our company? I saw the company's atmosphere and slogan, and I thought it fit me perfectly, so I decided to come for the interview. What specifically resonated with you? I'm sorry, but your appearance seems quite flashy, which doesn't seem to fit our company culture. The company's headquarters are in the US, but this is the only overseas branch, which was established not too long ago, right? Yes, you've done your homework. But how does that relate to you? I've also just arrived in this area not too long ago and want to explore this country. I believe my proactive nature would be a real asset, especially in new business development. I see. To be honest, I was thinking you might just be all talk, so how about working with us for a week to start? Understood. I'll make sure you see my value within that week. Your enthusiasm is impressive, so let's start with a week of work and see how it goes. Honestly, her motivation is palpable just from talking to her. However, people who jump in head first like this often cool off just as quickly, so we'll have her work for a week and observe. Of course, having enthusiasm and drive is great, and I'm not dismissing that. But because of her flashy appearance, I'm worried she might quit soon. So first, we'll have her work for a week to really see if she's serious about working with us. Thinking this over, we decided to tentatively hire her, and she'll start working with us next week. If you have any questions or anything you don't understand, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you for being so kind. I'll work hard to get started on new business development as soon as possible. For now, there's a manual I've created, so please read through that before starting on any document creation. This manual is really well made and easy to read. Did you really create this? It's like something a corporation would spend years developing. Thank you for such high praise. Actually, I was suddenly given the role of branch manager of this overseas branch, and this was the first manual I created after coming to this country. Being able to create something like this right after arriving in a foreign land shows you're really capable. It's not that big of a deal, but Mia, you're quite talkative, which is refreshing. Leveraging that could really make a difference in new business development. Thinking this, I decided to take Mia along for new business development right away. Honestly, since her appearance is flashy even outside of interviews, I wondered if she lacked common sense. However, she seems to be a very approachable person, and I'm convinced she's the type to be liked on sales visits. My hunches have been spot on lately, so Mia will likely be well received by clients. Driving to the company we had an appointment with, conversations started revolving around Mia from the get-go. Being new, I was worried about her manner of speaking, but she seemed to have acquired quite the sales skill from reading the manual I made with interest. My manual is designed so that even complete beginners can quickly become pros at sales, and it seems to have fit Mia perfectly. Just listening to Mia's sales talk, you wouldn't guess she was only recently hired on a provisional basis. With those thoughts, the sales visit ended successfully, and we secured a contract. I can believe you actually secured a contract. I had expectations for your eloquence, but I never thought it would be this amazing. Just reading the manual you made allowed me to speak so smoothly. I'm sure with that manual, we can secure many more contracts. Really? Yeah. I'm not naturally good at sales, and despite my flashy appearance, I managed to get a contract. If someone more skilled saw the manual, they'd definitely damn it. Maybe starting tomorrow, I'll show the manual to people coming in for interviews and take them along for new business development. They'll definitely grow into valuable assets for the company. I'd be happy if that were true. For now, consider yourself hired, Mia. I want you to keep doing your best in sales for us. Really. Thank you. Afterward, I took Mia's advice. shared the manual with new hires, and sent them on new business development. Just as Mia said, we started securing contracts rapidly. Years passed, and our contracts overseas increased, along with the number of our overseas branches. I hadn't thought we would grow this much, but the headquarters are grateful, so it's all good. Having moved overseas at 40, I suddenly found myself 15 years later at 55. Just when I was wondering about continuing my life abroad, I received a call from the headquarters asking me to return to the US. Wondering what was going on, I thought about going back to the US for a while and boarded a plane back. There wasn't much time, so I planned to quickly hear them out and then return overseas. Upon returning, I found that James, who was a manager, had become an executive. I came back as instructed, but what's the matter? Good to see you've returned promptly. Actually, since our overseas branches are doing well, we're planning to expand the business. That's why we wanted to discuss it with you, a key figure overseas. If it's okay for someone like me to participate, I'm more than willing. For now, we'll explain the business expansion plan at tomorrow's meeting. Understood. I'll be there. Saying that, we disbanded. I hadn't expected that, despite significant expansion overseas, further business expansion was planned. I'm not sure what will be discussed at tomorrow's executive meeting, but since there's nothing much I can do now, I'll just attend the meeting. It's been a long time since I've been in the US and the air feels refreshingly new. The colleagues I was close to here have all been promoted to executive positions. And the next day, I joined these familiar executives for the meeting. I thought it would end without incident, but then a department manager from the US headquarters addressed me. Who is this person? I haven't seen him before. My name is Max. No need to introduce yourself by name. Just tell us your educational background. Why my educational background? With that attitude, your background can't be that impressive. Indeed, I only graduated high school, so it's nothing impressive. This company hires high school graduates. Must be really desperate for manpower to reluctantly take them in. Just make sure you don't become a burden. Yes. While I was away at the overseas branch for 15 years, it seems that Tyler, who's a manager now, joined the company. From what I've heard, he seems to be very particular about educational backgrounds. So, when he met me, he immediately asked about mine and started acting superior once he realized his was higher. The company didn't used to care about educational backgrounds, so it seems to have changed a lot in 15 years. What is this incompetent high school graduate attending this meeting? He might be older than me, but this isn't the place for a high school graduate. Well, I was told to participate. Who thought it was a good idea to let a high school graduate attend an executive meeting? It's absurd. You shouldn't judge solely based on educational background. That's what incompetents like high school graduates would say. I have a higher education, so I know you can judge everything by academic background. I see. Tyler is not taking me seriously at all. I don't mind being looked down upon myself. However, if he's treating other employees the same way, I wish he'd stop. As I was thinking this, a blonde beauty entered. I didn't recognize her at first, but it turned out to be Mia from the overseas branch. I've been listening outside the conference room, but do you not know who Max is? Who are you, barging into the meeting like this? I'm Mia. Please, answer my question. Max, this incompetent high school dropout. I've never seen him before, so how would I know who he is? So, you think it's okay to say such things about Max because you don't know he's the manager of the overseas branch? The overseas branch, the main pillar of our company now. I heard that manager was very capable, but you're telling me it's this guy. That's what I've been saying. No way. Tyler seemed shocked, not expecting me to be the branch manager. Hearing I was a high school graduate, he judged me entirely, not thinking I'd be in a higher position. Now, knowing my rank, he seemed to regret his previous behavior. Mia has been doing well, which is why I brought her along, but I didn't expect this turn of events. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I was asked about my education and responded, but I had no idea you were the branch manager. I apologize for my disrespectful behavior. Even if Max wasn't the branch manager, looking down on someone based on their education is questionable. That's true. Max has been working hard overseas for 15 years. expanding the business to become a main pillar of this company. It's strange you don't know about such an incredible person. Mia, you don't need to say that much. It's frustrating. You worked so hard, and then to be treated like this as soon as you returned to the US. I appreciate your thoughts. I never expected Mia, with her flashy appearance, to defend me like this. I'm touched by her loyalty. As we were talking, James entered the conference room. I've been listening too. I've been concerned about Tyler's behavior for a while. You were listening too. To think you were aware, and what do you mean you've been concerned? He's been pulling educational superiority over his subordinates. This was supposed to be addressed in this meeting. Tyler shouldn't have been here. Why are you attending an executive meeting? I saw it was an executive meeting, so I thought I should attend. You're not an executive yet, Tyler. Misunderstandings like this, regardless of educational background, show you still have a lot to learn. After making such derogatory remarks about Max, this must be quite embarrassing. I'm sorry. With that, Tyler, his face flushed with embarrassment, left the conference room. Despite his earlier arrogance, realizing he wasn't supposed to be part of the meeting must have been embarrassing for him. After Tyler left, the other executives started to file into the meeting room. Then they started discussing the originally planned topic of overseas branch expansion. Mia wasn't supposed to participate initially, but when I mentioned she was one of the most talented individuals in our overseas branches, the executives wanted her to join, so she did. After a long meeting, it was decided that Mia would be appointed as the manager of the new overseas branch. I hadn't anticipated such a development, but Mia is truly capable, so I believe she will do well. Are you sure it's okay for me to be the branch manager? Your words remind me of Max 15 years ago. Really? Before going overseas, Max was incredibly anxious, constantly seeking reassurance from me about whether he could really do it. Knowing that makes me want to push myself harder. There's no need to bring up such embarrassing stories. Anyway, let's support each other in managing the overseas branches from now on. Yes. And so, Mia and I set out to develop our overseas branches. The new branch that Mia was tasked with, utilizing the manual I had created, grew smoothly and received positive evaluations from the headquarters. There were moments when I was sent overseas or looked down upon by Tyler, when I wondered how things would turn out, but in the end, everything moved in a good direction, which I'm grateful for.